Faith is the belief in things that you cannot see. You can never lose faith. That's the key. You have to believe in something that you can't see. You have to believe when you don't see no way how. You have to buckle down and keep believing. God is always coming. Here's the deal. The moment you ask God for something, he boxes it up and he ships it to you. Here's the problem with the package. He never gives you the date that it's going to arrive. It's going to come. He just don't tell you when. If he told you when, it would destroy the relationship that's required to have an abundant life, which is faith. If God told you you were going to be rich in August of 2021, do you know how crazy you would talk to people from now until then? Because you know on August 21, I'm going to be rich. But he don't tell you when the package is going to arrive. So here's the deal. He wants you to stay in faith to receive the package because he only delivers to Faith Street. If you step off over here to I Don't See How Boulevard, he don't ship there. If you get over here to I Don't See How Circle, he does not ship there. He only sends the boxes to Faith Street. So when he sends it and you'd have moved off Faith Street, the package got to go back. It's just like UPS or the post office. If they send you a box and you ain't home, they take it back. That's how it works, man.
Don't let what you don't have talk you out of what God does have. Get in agreement with him. God, this seems impossible to me, but I know you can do the impossible. I'm looking at it in the natural, but I know you're a supernatural God. You can take me where I can't go on my own. When the 3 Hebrew teenagers were about to be thrown into a fiery furnace because they wouldn't bow down to the king's golden idol, the guards tied their hands and feet with cords. They were thrown into the furnace bound. They should have instantly been killed. The fire was so hot, when the guards threw them in, the guards lost their lives. But in a little while, the king came to check on them. He said, "Didn't we throw 3 men in bound? I see 4 men loosed, and one looks like the Son of God." Here's my point. You may feel like your hands are tied. You've done your best, you've worked hard, you prayed, you believe, but it seems like you've reached your limits. It's never going to work out. The good news is God's hands are not tied. He's not limited by what's limiting us. Now, I believe today some cords are being broken. Some chains are coming off. What's restricted you in the past has lost its grip. That addiction that's held you back, the sickness, the financial difficulties, the trouble at work, this is a new day. The 4th man in the fire has shown up. Like these Hebrew teenagers, you're going to come out not bound, but loosed, free, healed, promoted, vindicated with that dream you're believing for. Now start seeing yourself free. See yourself breaking the addictions. See yourself rising to new levels, fulfilling your purpose. Your hands are not tied anymore. God is releasing you into new levels of your destiny. Abraham slept with Sarah's maid, and they had a son that they named Ishmael. And they loved Ishmael. They were happy to have him, but he was not the promised child. No disrespect to him, but Ishmael represents a spirit of good enough. This is not what I was believing for, but it's close. It's good enough. I'm not completely well, but at least I'm better. That's good enough. I was hoping for that management position. Didn't work out. This other job is good enough. You don't have to settle. God is not going to give you a substitute blessing. He's not into counterfeits. He's not into make and do. He has the real thing coming. Now, you may have some good enough areas in your life, but don't stop there. Don't let that spirit of good enough cause you to be satisfied. You have to keep stretching. Keep believing for the fullness of what God promised. 25 years after God told Abraham he was going to have a son, Ishmael was now 13 years old. God came to him again and said in Genesis 13, "Abraham, Sarah is going to bear you a child." When Abraham heard this, the scripture says he fell down laughing, saying, "God, I'm 100 years old now. Sarah is 90. How could she possibly have a baby at that age? Seems so impossible, so unlikely. He went on to say, may Ishmael enjoy my inheritance. He was saying, God, I'm okay with good enough. I'm okay with the substitute blessing. We love Ishmael. What was he doing? Moving the goalpost. God said, Abraham, I am not a God that gives good enough blessings. You may be satisfied with a look-alike, with a make-do, but not me. I love Ishmael, but I didn't say your maid was going to have a son. I said Sarah was going to have a son. By this time next year, she will give birth. You are to name him Isaac. But even though Abraham settled for Ishmael, even though they settled for having a baby a different way, God said in effect, I don't settle. I don't get talked out of what I've promised you. You may have watered it down, but I am true to my word. What God has spoken over you will come to pass. Not partially, not in an indirect way, not through your cousin, not to where you say this is good enough. God is going to surprise you. He's going to do it even though it seems too late, even though you've made mistakes. Even though you've already accepted that Ishmael is good enough, God is saying, get ready, Isaac is coming. For some of you, like God told them, by this time next year, you're going to see something God promised that you've already written off. Something that you've already accepted. It's too late now. You've settled, but you don't know what God is up to. He said, have I spoken it, and shall I not bring it to pass? At 90 years old, against all odds, Sarah gave birth to a son. They named him Isaac. She looked at him and said, who would have ever thought an old lady like me could have a baby? God has some of these who would have ever thought blessings coming your way. Blessings you can't explain. Favor that doesn't make sense. Goals and dreams that you can't accomplish in the natural is going to take the supernatural. The good news is God knows how to do the extraordinary. Things that you can't do on your own. Things that will amaze you. But sometimes the reason we settle is life hasn't turned out the way we thought. We've gone through disappointments. Unfair things have happened. Now we've lost our passion. This is what happened to Abraham's father. His name was Terah. He had 3 sons. One of those sons, a young man named Rohn, died at an early age. Terah went through this great disappointment of losing a son. Years later, God told him to leave the place he was living and move to Canaan, the promised land. He got his belonging, his family, and he started out that way. But when they came to the city of Haran, the same name as the son he lost, instead of passing through the city, instead of continuing on toward the promised land, the scripture says Terah settled in the city of Haran. He started out good, but when he came to the place that reminded him of the loss of his son, the place of disappointment, he got so discouraged that he gave up on his dream. Terah could have become the father of our faith. He's the original one God told to go to the promised land, not Abraham. But because of the loss, he chose to settle. If you're going to reach your destiny, you have to dig down deep and say, yes, I've been hurt, but I'm not settling here. I've been through disappointments, but I'm not settling in self-pity. I've been betrayed, but I'm not settling in bitterness. I lost a loved one. It was painful, but I'm not settling in despair. I know God has beauty for these ashes. I know weeping endures for a night, but joy is coming in the morning.